This, this abortion clinic chain describes abortion as sacred work, and the idea of abortion as sacrament is the language of paganism. And a university professor named Jeanette Paris, who is a pagan author, has written a book entitled The Sacrament of Abortion. And you can find it at Amazon, along with other pagan books she has written, Pagan Grace, Pagan Meditations. But in her book, The Sacrament of Abortion, she says abortion is a sacrifice to Artemis. Abortion as a sacrifice, as a sacrament for the gift of life to remain pure. I cannot count the number of arguments I have had with pastors who have accused me of exaggerating the horror of abortion by attempting to equate it with child sacrifice as condemned in the Old Testament. And they deride that equation, and they say that abortion is not comparable to child sacrifice in the Old Testament. And in a sense, they're right. It's not comparable. It actually is child sacrifice. It's not an analogy. We aren't comparing them. A pagan writer is saying abortion is child sacrifice to a pagan deity. She's saying it's demonic. We're not saying it's demonic. She's saying it's demonic. And yet our clergy are in such denial about this that when you confront them about preaching against child sacrifice, when pastors sort of drone through those Old Testament scriptures against the fires of Moloch and all of that kind of thing, and ask why they didn't link that Old Testament scripture to the contemporary practice of child sacrifice, they're offended, they get agitated, they feel threatened, and yet here in the words of an influential pagan writer is an admission that abortion isn't merely comparable to child sacrifice. Abortion is child sacrifice to the same, don't miss this, to the same pagan deities, the same named pagan deities to which the children of Israel were sacrificing their children. And the people to whom the first century apostles witnessed were sacrificing their children. Exactly the same named deities. Artemis, Diana, it's all the same stuff. The woman who runs this chain of abortion clinics is very alarmed that we will use this video, this D&E abortion video, dilatation, extraction, to change public opinion in a way that will persuade Congress to ban D&E abortion in very much the same way we've been able to restrict access to partial birth abortion. This woman who makes her living killing babies gets the connection between public opinion and public policy. She understands that showing this video will almost certainly cause people to think if partial birth abortion is too horrifying to be legal, D&E abortion is too horrifying to be legal as well. And if anything, D&E, the D&E procedure you just saw is more brutal, it's more horrifying than partial birth abortion. I mean, you're really torturing this baby to death with a D&E abortion. Now, lots of people will say, you know, this imagery, yes, it gets people upset because people are squeamish about the sight of blood. And, you know, if we showed people pictures of surgery, they would respond similarly. And that's simply not true. And as a test, and this is just one example I could offer of many, I went to the Keck School of Medicine's website, the University of Southern California's website, USC, and in their thoracic surgery section of the website, they have amazing video of surgery, of surgeons using saws to cut through people's sternums, and blood is flying, and this narrator's just blandly talking about how skilled these surgeons are and the amazing results they're able to produce with these, you know, innovative techniques that they're using. And of course, some people will be squeamish at the sight of all of that blood. But as a test, I went to the section of this same website, medical school website, that deals with abortion. And how many abortion videos do you think I found? None. How many abortion pictures do you think I found? Not a one. I found a few schematic anatomical line drawings that had nothing directly to do with abortion. They don't want you to see what abortion looks like. They want you to see what thoracic surgery looks like, blood and guts and all the rest, but they don't want you to see what abortion looks like. And here's the difference, and again, this is a black box maxim if you're taking notes. Blood shed to heal may make people feel squeamish, but blood shed to kill makes people feel horror. They feel horror, and people know whether the blood is being shed to heal or kill. That's the distinction. It's not the bloodshed. It's why the blood's being shed that accounts for the difference between being squeamish and being horrified. So when people tell you that our pictures are powerful simply because they're bloody, that's a lie, and it's a stupid lie. I mean, it's a non sequitur. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't logically follow. Dead babies, the Los Angeles Times, bomb blast in Kabul, suicide bomber. Moments after the bomb went off, there were photographers there taking pictures of dead babies. That photograph was 4 columns wide, above the fold, major U.S. newspapers, and yet you'll never see that picture in newspapers. And so people don't have any real understanding. So what's the pro-life movement's response to this? How do we educate people? Well, we use imagery. I wasn't aware of the fact that 2-year-olds were being killed until I saw that picture. That picture suggests that even 2-year-olds, that abortionists are even killing 2-year-olds. What does that have to do with abortion? It has nothing to do with abortion. It makes us feel good about ourselves, but it doesn't make anybody feel bad about abortion. Abortion kills children. That's a declarative statement that assumes the truth of the proposition which we have the burden to prove. It assumes that an unborn child is a child. It assumes that abortion kills that child, but it offers no evidence that would support, much less compel, those kinds of conclusions. Pray to end abortion, 40 days for life. We like 40 days for life. I mean, who could be against praying to end abortion? But why? Why pray to end abortion? Does that sign tell you anything about why abortion is so bad we should pray to end it? Again, it assumes the truth of the proposition which we have the burden to prove. And so when you're exhorting people to pray about something, they have to have some sense of why this is a compelling need. And there's nothing on that sign that would explain that. That explains why we need to pray to end abortion. And yet every time we try to hold that sign up at a 40 Days for Life prayer vigil, 40 Days for Life organizers get angry at us and they tell us to go away. They tell us they don't want these pictures displayed where they're praying. I'm trying to contain myself here. I think I need another pill. No, that was not a tranquilizer either. Well, I'll explain why. And I like 40 Days for Life, please. This is not a rant against 40 Days for Life. I mean, who could be against praying, as I said? But 40 Days for Life measures success. The principal metric by which they measure success is how many people they turn out to pray. And if they can get 100 people out, that goes right into their fundraising appeals, and they say, we had a vigil and we got 100 people out, and they say that's a good thing because we're bringing people into the pro-life movement who've never done anything before. It's sort of a gateway project, and maybe they'll move on to other work. Of course, they almost never do, by the way, parenthetically. They sort of stall at that level. But my thesis is, based on a great deal more experience than anybody at 40 Days for Life, and again, I don't say that harshly, it's just objectively true, is that two people praying outside an abortion clinic holding one aborted baby photo will save more lives than 200 people praying outside an abortion clinic with no aborted baby imagery at all. You know how I know that? I've done it again and again. I've seen it again and again. A great theologian once observed that to expect God to do everything while we do nothing isn't religion, it's superstition. And it's superstitious for us to stand outside abortion clinics praying that somebody's going to show these women the truth about abortion, and then somebody comes along and tries to show them the truth about abortion, and 40 Days for Life shoos them away. And shoos them away because they're afraid that the presence of aborted baby photos will reduce the size of their turnout. And if they don't get a big turnout, they think it's a failure because they're like pastors. Don't miss this point. They're like pastors. Pastors measure success by how many rear ends there are in the pews. That's the principal metric because that's what drives the cash flow. It's what drives, everything the church is trying to accomplish. You've got to get people sitting in the pews. And anything you do that drives people away is inimical to that interest. Rick Warren started one of the most financially successful churches in America by going around the neighborhood he had targeted as his sort of demographic objective, if you will, with a clipboard. And he just asked people, do you go to church? And if they said no, he said, what kind of a church would you design, or what kind of a church would it take to get you to go to church? And he just wrote down whatever people said. And then he collated all of that, and that's the church that he put together. He did not sit down with the Bible and say, what kind of church did Jesus say we needed to have? He took a market-driven approach and said, what does the common rabble, if you will, and I say that gently, what does the man in the street say is a church they would like? And he gave them a church that they would like. And it's not a church that's strong on the abortion issue or any other sin, frankly, because that drives people away. And it's the same thing with 40 Days for Life. They don't want to drive people away. And abortion pictures do two things. They drive people away, and they save babies' lives. So how many babies are you willing to let die to avoid driving activists away? And I've been told by 40 Days for Life people, by name, publicly, sometimes in writing, that what I'm doing is hurting the pro-life movement. And I plead guilty. What I do does hurt the pro-life movement, not because I want to hurt the pro-life movement, but for the very simple reason that I'm not in this to protect the pro-life movement. I'm in this to protect the babies. And the stuff I do to protect the babies hurts the pro-life movement. It even hurts my organization. It hurts our fundraising. It hurts our recruiting. It causes my own family to want to stay away from me. I won't name the relative. I had a relative who's a close relative who sent back the birthday cards that my wife and I were sending to her children. She was so upset by our pro-life work. That hurts. Now, it's vital that we not be reckless, that we not be callous, that we not be irresponsible. We don't want to hurt the pro-life movement needlessly, but it's vital that we be willing to take casualties. It's vital that we be willing to accept losses because this is a war, and wars are won by fighting, and fighting produces casualties. You don't want to feed your troops into a meat grinder irresponsibly, but you've got to be prepared to suffer losses. And when you aren't, I showed you a video that used abortion imagery to refute the lies of a demonic abortion saleswoman. Imagine if I would have produced that exact same video, but instead of using abortion imagery, imagine I would have just used a pro-life sign. That's what the storyboard for that video would look like right there. Would any of those signs refute any of the lies that woman was telling? Of course they wouldn't. But if you want to know why we're losing in a single graphic, if you want to see a single PowerPoint slide that really explains why we're losing this fight, it's on the screen right now. Because that's how the pro-life movement wants to refute these lies. I'm sorry? Very much a focus group mentality. It's, what will people accept? What will people like? What will, not what do they need to know, not what is the truth. This is how we educate people on university campuses. We set up big displays, and we own the place when we come onto a campus, and we get on there because we tell the university, if you try to keep us off, we will sue you. We will sue you. And we've been doing this now for 13 years or something like that, going onto these campuses. We have never once failed to get onto a campus that we wanted to get onto. And we've done this hundreds and hundreds of times. Millions of students have seen this imagery, and it almost invariably provokes demonstrations. Do you see? It's going to be a little bit tough to see. Do you see the students who have ringed our display? Do you see which way they're facing? They're facing out. They always face their backs to the pictures because they can't stand to look at the pictures. And we've seen this for 13 years. We've never had a single group of demonstrators, not one, face the pictures while they're demonstrating. They always turn their backs to the pictures because even they can't face the truth. That's the power of these pictures. This is the picture I just showed you is University of California at Berkeley. This picture is the University of Wisconsin at Madison. I put those two pictures together because those are the most liberal, pro-abortion, maniacal, far-left universities in the country, and we owned those schools while they were there. I mean, we owned the place. We just shut the place down the whole time we were there. And at UC Berkeley, a female faculty member came shrieking up to me the first minute that we had this display up. I have more gray hair than anyone on our staff, so these professors assume I'm in charge and always make a beeline straight for me. And she came up and she said, she was just snarling. She said, "How dare you make women feel guilty about their abortions?" And I said, if abortion is a socially responsible act, why would a picture of an abortion make anybody feel guilty? She went, she spun on her heel and disappeared. I never saw her again for the rest of the time we were there. That's a devastating question. Why are abortion's most ardent advocates so committed to making sure nobody sees what it looks like? And the answer is self-evident. Abortion can only flourish in the darkness. It can only flourish as long as the other side succeeds in hiding it. And they've been very successful at hiding it because we help them. We help them hide it. The church helps them hide it. Lots of Christians say, if my pastor isn't passionate about this, why should I be? If my pastor isn't confronting the culture, why should I be? And lots of pastors say, if the doctors and lawyers in my congregation aren't passionate about this, why should I be? A lot of us are going to have a lot to account for when we stand before the judgment seat of Christ. A lot of us. Interestingly, this picture, which was just taken about 2 weeks ago at the University of Wisconsin at Madison, was 200 yards away, just going into the picture, about 200 yards away from Barack Obama's University of Wisconsin rally the day after the first debate. And we were told by the Madison police that the Secret Service intended to erect a chain link barricade separating our display from this venue. And so we were expecting that, and we saw the Secret Service carefully looking over our display and looking at our truck. And the next day, when the chain link fence was supposed to go up, it didn't go up. And more amazingly, not only did the Secret Service decide not to wall us off from this rally, but they decided to make every person, all 30,000 people who attended the rally, walk past our display to leave the venue. They made 30, these are the public employee union activists who tried to recall Governor Scott Walker. These people were so furious at us. We had 8 uniformed, armed Madison Police Department officers standing between us and the crowd. That's how angry these people were at us. So the Secret Service is making them walk past us, and the Madison police are holding them at bay. And boy, were they unhappy. But when you just get, I mean, we had no idea Barack Obama was coming to that campus when we scheduled this. And we certainly had no idea that his event would be right up against our event. And we certainly had no idea that the Secret Service were going to make everybody walk past our event. So we decided that the Secret Service is secretly more pro-life than we thought they were. We want people to see abortion as genocide. We want them to understand it as a crime against humanity, not merely something that's maybe a sin, or maybe you shouldn't do it, or it's ill-advised or irresponsible. We want them to see it as genocide. And almost everywhere we go, the bed sheets come out and people try to cover up the signs. There's a debate that's been raging for 40 years in the pro-life movement over whether these pictures work. There's no debate among the pro-aborts. They know they work, and they're terrified of them, and they follow us around with bed sheets. There are the bed sheets again. And the 2 police officers in the upper left-hand quadrant of that photo had just forced the bedsheet brigade back away from the barricades. They tried to set up the bedsheets right against the barricades, and I told the dean of students, I held up my cell phone and I said, I have a lawyer right now standing by in Portland, this is at Oregon State, to file a petition for injunctive relief against you by name if you don't direct the police to move the bedsheets back. And he stepped away from me and got on his cell phone, and the next thing I knew, the police were moving the bed sheets back. Here's what this, here's the sort of effect that this transformational effect that this sort of display can have.
My name is Julie. I'm 24. Here at UNF and the nursing program. I remember when y'all came here 3 years ago, you were out on the green instead, which was like the metropolis, the heart of the campus back then. But I walked by and saw these pictures and thought, you know, I was pro-choice at that time, so it made me really angry. I was one of the heavy debaters. You know, I thought, oh, if your argument must be so weak that you have to use, you know, these pictures, and I thought it was disgusting. But it followed me home, and it followed me for several days, and I went online and looked up a video of an entire abortion, and I cried until I couldn't breathe. And I changed. I changed at that moment from pro-choice to pro-life. And I know that it was because I saw these pictures. And I think what people do, why people get so upset, is because when you see a baby in pieces like that, you can't help but feel some kind of bad feeling. You feel angry or sad or disgusted or scared or guilty, but you can't escape the truth. And these pictures show the truth. There's nothing you can argue with that. So I totally support what you guys are doing. It changed my life, changed the way I think. And I don't think that women who get abortions are evil and terrible people. I see them as victims. I see them as people we can help. And I don't know, I think this is a great project.
We have professors telling us all the time that they didn't know, they didn't realize that this is what this looked like. We have students telling us that as well. And the whole purpose of this exhibit is to create cognitive dissonance, to just make people's heads explode by the irreconcilability of what they see on the left with what they see on the right. We want them to understand that this is not only genocide, but it's genocide of the most trivial sort, cosmetic genocide, killing a baby because she doesn't have a pretty smile. We cite a medical journal article that describes the frequency with which unborn babies with cleft lip and palate are being not only diagnosed in utero, but aborted. That's one of our little girls on the left. In fact, we just began using that sign a few months ago, actually in the spring, and a local television news crew in New England came out to the campus on which we debuted it and did a news story, and we grabbed it and I called her over and showed it to her. This is Lou, Alice May Lou, and I showed it to her on my computer, and she didn't say anything, she just watched it. And when it was over, she said, "I was saving babies and I wasn't even there." Same thing with intellectual genocide. Would you kill this child for not being smart enough? The trend in medicine is toward genetic engineering, prenatal diagnoses of conditions of various kinds to abort them. 90% of children with Down syndrome diagnosed in utero are now being aborted. Gendercide. The Economist magazine cover story recently talking about 100 million baby girls that have been killed through infanticide and through abortion, largely in India and China, but it's perfectly lawful to employ gender selection abortions in the United States. We want to confront students about that. And this is a great wedge issue because it gets female college students arguing with feminists about whether this is good or bad, and we like to do all in our power to fracture these pro-abortion coalitions, and this sign is amazingly effective at coalition fracturing. Gays and lesbians come up to us when we've got this sign up, and they don't have any idea what to say. And whatever they say, we love gay babies, and we'll protect them just as vigorously as we would straight babies. Now, frankly, we don't believe that a person's sexual orientation is a product of genetic determinism. I was born with a hot temper. I can tell you, I've had a hot temper. I'm a Scots-Irish guy. I descend from tribal warriors. All my ancestors have hot tempers, but that doesn't license me to go around punching people. I mean, we're all born a certain way. It's the fall. I mean, we have evil in our hearts, and all of us are inclined to do bad things or unhelpful things or whatever. That doesn't license us to just do those things with impunity and then claim, well, it's just the way I am. So the suggestion that even a genetic predisposition to a certain type of behavior licenses you without reservation to indulge that behavior is simply silly. It's a silly thing to say. We're asked about rape all the time, all the time. Read that sign. Oh, I'm sorry. Conceptually, what the sign says is that in some cultures, when a young woman is raped, male members of her family kill her through what's called an honor killing. They kill her. She's totally innocent. She did nothing. She was just raped, but the rape embarrasses the family. And in Southwest Asia and the Middle East, not uncommon for her to get killed. And we rightly decry that as primitive and barbaric. And then in America, we turn around and kill her baby, who's equally innocent as a product of rape. If it's wrong for the Islamists to kill this young woman, how can it be right for us to kill this young woman's baby? I mean, it's just, why are we killing people here? This makes no sense at all. Punish the rapist. Don't execute the rapist's innocent victims. It's totally absurd. But by making people think about abortion the same way they currently think about honor killing, in association with rape, you shift the paradigm. And you throw the other side on the defensive. And if you want to hear something interesting, we began to display this sign at UC Irvine in the spring, and we've displayed it, I don't know, three or four times probably in total since we came up with the concept. And we used to get barraged with students assailing us over rape and abortion, rape and abortion. And now, not a single student that I'm aware of, not a single student has dared to challenge us on the issue of rape since we started to display this sign. This sign just shuts that down because it helps people understand that if killing the mother is wrong, certainly killing the baby has got to be wrong as well. And when you make the baby as real as is the baby's mother, it's very compelling. Women say, it's my body. We ask then, whose body is this? You're making the baby real. People say the government should stay out of abortion. Should the government stay out of child abuse? Should the government... A constant refrain of the abortion industry is we should trust women. We should trust women. Do we trust women who are abusing born children? Then why would we trust women who are abusing unborn children in the sense that we would let them continue the abuse with impunity? And these signs help people to see how little difference, how little meaningful difference there is between a 10-year-old abused child and a 10-week-old abused unborn child. We don't want people to feel good about voting for pro-abortion candidates. We don't want people to feel good about themselves when they associate themselves with evil. Now, as I wrap this up, and we'll go to questions, comments, arguments, whatever you want to do. One of the projects that is going to be our big pivot after the campaign ends this fall, and we're running trucks all over the country. I'll show you a little bit of that in just a moment. But we have begun to display signs of this sort on the sidewalks, large signs outside of businesses that are supporting Planned Parenthood corporately. And we have all kinds of signs that we display on the sidewalks and driving around these businesses. And our purpose is to drive customers away from those businesses, even if those customers disagree with us on the abortion issue. We're picketing a big hotel in Southern California, resort hotel, virtually on the beach, beautiful ocean views, and we're holding up giant aborted baby photos between the hotel and the beach so that people trying to enjoy the ocean view see these pictures. They can't look at the ocean without seeing the pictures. And lots of them who are very pro-abortion are not going to come back to that hotel. And the reason they're going to stay away from the hotel is they want to relax on their vacation. So even though they don't agree with us, the pictures have the effect of driving them away. And what we're saying to the Marriott is, if you give money to people who kill babies, it's going to cost you something. We're going to make sure it costs you something. Right here, if you focused locally on a town like Scottsdale with a very affluent, upscale population, you could start this project at the Marriott in Old Town Scottsdale. And I can tell you historically, no injustice has ever been outlawed by covering it up. You've absolutely got to expose it. And targeting these businesses, the Ritz-Carlton Scottsdale is the owner of the Ritz-Carlton, which is the Marriott, supports Planned Parenthood. They allow their hotels to donate to Planned Parenthood. They refuse to impose a policy which they have the contractual authority to do that would ban their franchisees, licensees, their hotels from donating to Planned Parenthood. They let them do it. And these signs create a crisis outside these hotels, I can tell you, because people are spending a great deal of money to go to these luxury hotels to escape the pressures of everyday life and enjoy the sort of relaxing ambiance of the hotel. It really rains on the hotel's parade. The Sheridan Resort, Scottsdale, same thing. A very vulnerable target. And it just takes two people with one sign and you disrupt business as usual. I mean, the whole character of the place changes. The whole nature of the hotel experience changes. Westin Resort, Scottsdale, again, Planned Parenthood, the parent company allows their hotels to donate to Planned Parenthood. Killing babies is profitable, saving them is expensive, and we've got to diminish abortion's profitability. And when we cut off corporate funding for the abortion industry, we make abortion less profitable. Whole Foods Market, Scottsdale. Whole Foods allows their stores to donate to Planned Parenthood. And again, people go to Whole Foods in part for this very pleasant, how many of you have ever been in a Whole Foods market? It's this very pleasant place. It's almost like a Garden of Eden. You know, the lighting is carefully planned and everything. You just kind of feel good in there. The vibe is great. And this is a buzz killer. I mean, these pictures on the sidewalk outside this place are like a huge buzz killer. Now, they're not going to make you want to go to the Safeway, but there are other health food stores in the Phoenix area that people will go to. And if we get enough abortion signs outside of enough Whole Foods markets, I think their policy will begin to change. Eddie V's in Scottsdale, owned by the Darden Restaurant Company. That's a super high-end seafood place where, I mean, rich people go to eat there. You could just wreck that place with one aborted baby photo on their sidewalk on a consistent basis. Those rich people can go anywhere they want, and they're going to decide this is not an appetizing sort of sight for me to see coming in to Eddie V's. Downscale, Red Lobster. Parent company gives money to Planned Parenthood. Why aren't we wrecking their business? By lawfully, respectfully standing on the sidewalk with an aborted baby picture. Olive Garden restaurant. If I put enough of these slides up, I'm going to make every one of you feel guilty because eventually I'm going to find some company that you really like, whose products you like or services you like, and you're going to say, oh no, not those guys. The Nike store. I actually own about 10 pairs of Nike shoes, but what can I say? Again, why aren't we out in front of the Nike store? Southwest Airlines. Do you know what the effect that you could have at the Phoenix airport at the departure level with a couple of big aborted baby photos, chiding Southwest for giving money to Planned Parenthood. I mean, it would be very disruptive. And we can go there because the labor unions over the years, the Airline Pilots Association, the Flight Attendants Association, the aircraft mechanics, have gone to court over and over again, suing the airport authorities for the right to picket these big airlines. And so, and they win these cases. And so they're able to put their pickets right up against the glass outside the ticket counters. And we can too by just availing ourselves of all of this litigation that they've filed and won. If they can be there holding up signs demanding better wages and benefits, we can be there with even more compelling signs demanding that Southwest stop killing babies. We're letting society get away with this. Society's paying no price for this. This is invisible. People don't even, they're not thinking about this, and we've got to make them think about it. We've got to impose costs that eventually become unbearable. And we do that with trucks. This is Notre Dame. When Barack Obama came into Notre Dame, his first year in office, to give the commencement address and receive an honorary doctorate, he eagerly accepted the invitation. I would argue that he engineered the invitation because it legitimized him with Catholics. Lots and lots of Catholics saw this as Notre Dame University placing its imprimatur, the imprimatur of the Catholic Church, on this president in a way that trivialized his position on infanticide and abortion. And we came into Notre Dame with trucks and a variety of other vehicles, and for 3 weeks just made them pay such a disruptive price that countless other Catholic universities across the country decided that they didn't want their campus turned into a circus for graduation. And so in the 3 years next following, Barack Obama has never been invited to another Catholic university to give a talk. And it was our conscious intent to deny him, to intimidate Catholic university presidents from asking him to come in and give the commencement talk, precisely because so many Catholic voters are so easily deceived. If they see Barack Obama showing up at these big Catholic universities over and over again, they just assume he's okay. We were all over the Obamacare fight. We went into the districts of members of Congress, Democrats who were supposedly pro-life, but supporting Obamacare in the end. We went into we worked in 16 districts. 11 of those 16 members of Congress were gone by the next session. There is one of our trucks 2 weeks ago in Madison. If you look closely, did you see that black limousine just to the left of our truck? President Obama is in that limousine. That's his motorcade, driving right past our giant aborted baby photo with the Secret Service SUV just behind his limo. Here's what the press says about television news about this project.
LA's #1 choice for news. Fox 11, 10 o'clock news.
The anti-abortion movement hits the road and it gets closer to you than ever.
Drivers on I-4 got an eyeful today.
The Center for Bioethical Reform hit the interstate this morning during rush hour
with huge 25-foot pictures of aborted fetuses on the sides.
It's an in-your-face message, and it is causing trouble on the freeway.
The pro-life movement takes to a freeway near you. I'm Al Naipo, the very latest in the anti-abortion movement. They're on wheels and they're in your face. The pro-life movement is actually driving home a powerful anti-abortion message. And it may catch you off guard next time you're out on the freeway. Now, we have to warn you, some of the pictures you're about to see are disturbing.
We want to warn you folks, some of these images that you're about to see are disturbing.
Some of the video you're about to see may be disturbing.
Now, we have to warn you, the pictures you're about to see are a bit disturbing.
And we do need to warn you that the video you're about to see in this report is disturbing.
And we caution you the video we're about to show you may be disturbing.
Now, we want to warn you that some of the images you'll see may be disturbing.
We warn you, some images are graphic.
We want to warn you, though, some of the pictures you're about to see are graphic.
We want to give you ample warning now before you see these images here. They're very graphic.
We warn you, this video is graphic.
We want to warn you, some of these pictures are very graphic.
And we want to warn you, they are graphic and you might find them offensive.
And we want to warn you, some of the pictures in this report may be upsetting to some.
We want to warn you, some of the pictures this group uses in its billboard campaign may be upsetting.
The images show an aborted fetus shortly after a procedure posed next to a dime. They are graphic, they are bloody, and they are doing exactly what the group wants them to do, to turn heads and get people to think.
Oh, that is horrible. But you know what? It makes you think twice about actually doing something like that. It really does.
About half the time, television news runs our pictures without blurring them out, and before doing so, they have to warn people that what they're about to see could be disturbing, which helps reinforce our contention that abortion is more disturbing than you think it is. And the 50% of the time that they blur the images out, they have to say, we're blurring these images out because abortion is too disturbing to show you on television, which makes our point again. So just by putting these images out in public, we create so much conflict that the press can't ignore the conflict, but can't report on the conflict without, at some level, exposing the origins of the conflict, and the origins are, of course, the pictures. And we even tow them behind airplanes. This is a 50 by 100-foot aerial billboard that we're going to start running in Wisconsin next week, one of the battleground states. We have trucks. We had trucks in Iowa, Colorado, Florida, Virginia, and we've now moved trucks into Ohio, out of all those states, but Virginia, we've got them in, concentrated in Ohio, and we'll put planes in Wisconsin next week.
From WSTV, this is Channel 9 Eyewitness News at 5. Coverage you can count on.
First, a billboard. Now, a national anti-abortion group is taking its message to the sky. The group behind that message says the campaign will only get bigger. Good evening, I'm Bob Opsahl.
And I'm Marty Salt. The group is targeting Central Florida as millions of tourists start to arrive now, and some people say this time it's gone too far. Channel 9 Steve Barrett is live in Orange County with the story. Steve?
Well, Marty, the people in this neighborhood thought it was had gone too far. In fact, someone scaled the fence, and take a look. They tore down the billboard that did have tiny bloody body parts on the pictures. That one's been torn down, but today the same images took to the sky to reach a much wider audience. Patrick Walsh is a pilot with one job. Today, he'll begin flying one banner with a very controversial message. As he lifts the banner to the sky, he begins the second phase of an anti-abortion campaign that has already created controversy in Orlando.
Abortion is such a horrible evil that words are inadequate to describe it.
Mike Scrimshire represents the organization that created this giant banner. The image is one we can't show on TV. An aborted baby's face at just 10 weeks into a terminated pregnancy. Brutal and disturbing pictures that will be on billboards and trucks as well as the banner.
Brutal and disturbing. This is a secular station. This isn't a Christian station. I mean, these people are not with us on the issue, but they saw the pictures and they said, we can't show this to you. It's so brutal and disturbing. So even though they didn't show you the pictures, they said abortion is brutal and disturbing, and that has an influence. It definitely has an impact. I came here to say, please think big. Why are we thinking small? The people who kill these babies are big thinkers. They think big. We think small. That's got to stop. These airplanes literally reach millions of people in an afternoon. That's thinking big, at a fraction of the cost of doing television. We've got offices in Canada, the UK, it's Parliament Square in London. We've got an affiliate in Spain, an associate in Belgium, the Netherlands, Romania, Mexico, the Czech Republic, Poland. These guys in Poland are they're doing amazing stuff with our pictures. Finland. I'll just show you 1 minute of a video in Helsinki. These are just great, great people taking these pictures, just a handful of people.
Pelottava on.
Sweden, Russia. Look at these guys in Russia. This is a Russian medical school. They're setting up our campus project at a Russian medical school.
Автономная некоммерческая организация «Позитивный вирус» подготовила и успешно реализует образовательный проект для студентов высших учебных заведений под названием «Понимание геноцида». Цель нашего проекта – защитить право на жизнь самой слабой и уязвимой части нашего общества, нерожденных детей, и помочь молодым людям не совершить фатальных ошибок. Особенность работы «Позитивного вируса», по нашему мнению, заключается в использовании специально разработанных визуальных материалов для того, чтобы эффективно достигать современную культуру правдой об абортах. Проект «Понимание геноцида» устраняет самое сильное оружие оппозиции, выступающей за использование абортов, отрицание истинных фактов. Потому что аборт является актом насилия, который убивает ребенка. Наши фотографии делают это утверждение чрезвычайно ясным.
Very confronting. Your images. Very confronting.
Where are you from?
I am from Australia. Yeah, from Melbourne. I had not realised that abortion was so bloody, so horrible. I don't believe in abortion myself, but even still, it shocks me. So yeah, spasibo.
In Africa, Ghana, Kenya. Look at our guy on the left there. He has one picture. It's probably a $30 picture, and he's going into these bad neighborhoods in Nairobi, and he attracts an instant crowd just holding up this picture. Boom! Everybody gathers around. They want to see what what is this picture? What's this about? It's an extremely cost-effective way of changing public opinion on abortion in the third world. These pictures cut right through the language barrier, right through the cultural differences. Doesn't matter. Everybody reacts the same way to the pictures. All right, just about done. We defend life from the moment of fertilization all the way through full-term delivery. We're going to be displaying signs of this sort outside of pharmacies that dispense abortifacient drugs, such as Plan B, and even more directly abortifacient drugs. We want to target big grocery stores that have pharmacies right inside the store, and we believe that we can have a very big impact on customer willingness to go into these stores, whether they agree with us or not, on issues like abortion. You'll hear constant laments about children seeing these pictures. This is our answer. Christians often ask us whether Jesus would use bloody pictures to make his point, and we say he already did. If it's right for us to show these pictures to university students whose professors are hiding the truth about abortion, why is it wrong for us to show these pictures on the sidewalk outside of churches whose pastors are hiding the truth about abortion? In the 7th chapter of Jeremiah, God commanded his prophet to stand in the gates of the temple. God said to Jeremiah, "Go to the church and warn my people about the shedding of innocent blood." They're shedding innocent blood. They're indifferent to the shedding of innocent blood. Go there and stand in the gates of the temple and warn them. And that's very much our prophetic responsibility as pro-life Christians. It's just as vital that we confront the church as it is that we confront the educational establishment, the commercial establishment, anybody who's covering up the truth about abortion, anybody who's either doing bad things or refusing to do good things has got to be confronted. All right, that's all I came to say. God bless you for being here and tolerating this patiently.